We're live.
We're live. Let the people in. Boxing Day sale has begun. Let the people in. Let them in. It's going to be our biggest boxing sale day ever. Let the people in. Let the people in. Why? Because today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be doing a hybrid. We're going to be doing a hybrid webinar. There's not just one or two, there's three different organizations involved. And what we're really going to be focusing on is how your competitors might be using remote professionals getting appraisals at the moment. So there is a poll, and I'd like you to participate because it's going to help us shape the conversation. Are you using any tech or offshore? Now, I'm confused about this question, so I'm going to have to need to give it clarity because the writer of this question says, are you using any tech or offshore? Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think everyone is using. Why is it saying this?
What are you confused about? It's very simple. You're either using
Because
tech
everyone's using tech,
platforms or
Susan.
offshore,
Because
like
everyone
Wingman,
is
or you're
using
using
tech,
both or neither.
Susan.
How is that confusing?
Susan, are you using tech? Everyone's using tech. No one's not using tech.
Then
Nick,
that answers your question.
thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls, what I'm excited about today is anyone that's been listening to my training of late is my obsession with the leads that are not the hot leads, but the medium and the cold leads. And the reason I've been obsessed with those is that no one's really talking to those. It seems like the whole real estate industry is obsessed with picking the easy one, the now seller. And the problem that you've got with the now seller is everyone wants the now seller. And because everyone wants the now seller, you've got too many agents on the now seller fighting for it right at the end. And essentially, often the way you're going to win that business is by lowering your fee. What I want to speak about is how do you nurture, have top of mind awareness, and how do you ensure that you've got a pipeline of listings that keep coming through every month? And I'm pleased to let you know that after my meeting with the two gentlemen, it reinforced to me that what a lot of my real estate gym members who are using remote professionals to get price updates done are telling me it is the best decision they've made. So to kick it all off, I'm just going to quickly run through some of these results that have come through. Then we're going to introduce our thought leader of the day, Nick George's Tech and Offshore. Are you using any tech or offshore? 15% say they're doing both. Tech only, 26%. Man, that's bizarre. So, Susan, I'm going to take that back because you're telling me that only 26% are using technology. Well, three quarters of you, where are you watching this on then, right? Do you have a computer, right? I think
I think people have interpreted it as automation platforms. That's
is
what
that
that's what they mean by tech.
is that what we mean, you think? But like using automation.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
sending out digital price updates.
Okay. So offshore support only 5%, no 55%. Nick Georges, on my right, well, I'm not quite sure the way Zoom's showing it on your computer, but they all know who you are because you're famous now. You weren't 2 years ago, but you're famous now because Wingman's made you famous, Nick.
That's
Um,
right.
no, actually, yeah, no, Wingman's made you famous. Wingman's made you famous. But I've got to say to you, you needed to become famous because your thought knowledge was being negligent, not being listened to. So the fact that you've got a platform now means that they can hear Nick Georges's view on life, which you've got a view on two main topics, and one's PM and one's, offshoring. They to me are the two big things. So Nick, firstly, how you going?
Very well, Tom. Thank you for that very flashy intro.
Yeah, well, I wasn't gonna tell him the other intro that on March the 25th I played against him in pickleball. And don't get me wrong, he's a good tennis player, right? And I'm not, I'm a soccer player, I'm not a tennis player, but I played him in pickleball. And then he said, oh, something along the lines, oh, wasn't my day. And then I pulled out my phone and I showed him that I'd had radiation at 12 o'clock, and he just swallowed his tongue and he just sort of kept quiet and realized that wasn't the right one. When are we going to play again, Nick?
I
I'm
think
I'm health. I'm all healthy. When are we playing again?
I think it's interesting you bring up the first time we played and not the other four times we played after that, where I think I blew you off the court, right?
I'm not quite sure whether your recollection of the final results is exactly the same as mine. Let's leave it at that. I want to ask you, Nick, what do you reckon the evolution of Wingman, right? So I actually met you in the park at Five Dock, Rod Park, right?
Mhm.
And, at the time, you were the head director of one of the largest groups in the country, overseeing their property management department. And was that meeting about 2 years ago, Nick?
Yeah, so that was a bit over 2 years ago.
Okay, it was a bit over
It
2
was
years.
before Wingman.
Okay, so Nick, like there's heaps of players in the real estate space, mainly tech companies in the
Yep.
last few years. There's hundreds of them. For every 20, one starts getting a bit of attention. I'm generalizing. I could be wrong. Could be 1 in 30. All I'm saying is the odds aren't great if you're hitting real estate. Everyone wants to get the eyeballs of the agents. What do you reckon? Wingman has had so much cut through, and tell me a little bit about the evolution of Wingman.
Yeah, I think at the start when Johnny Bell, who I think a lot of people on the call have met, who have heard about, at the start it was very much solving an admin problem. Uh, the evolution of Wingman has been built on actually standing alongside businesses, and the word the word that comes to mind when I think about the evolution of Wingman is optimization. And Like you mentioned, there are new tech and new sort of things that come onto the market regularly, and very few of them stick. And I think one of the reasons for this alignment with Wingman and Realtair is because one, obviously they're solving a problem, but two, they're actually allowing not only businesses but agents to work at an optimum level. And I think the cost efficiencies and all of that do play a part. But it's about how do we allow businesses to work at their optimum. And I think that's been something that Johnny and I have continued to fine tune over the years, over the 2 years we've had the business, and we'll continue to do as we evolve and get deeper into the industry and deeper into offices and operations across the country.
Yeah, I like that word, optimum level, which is essentially saying trying not to necessarily make people spend more money, use more time, but in fact, the opposite. That's what you're sort of saying, right? How to actually get to a level where it's running at BIW, best in the world, where you just are adjusting things. And um, like I've been unsure about how remote professionals could do more than admin. I always knew the admin. I mean, I've got admin people that work in, I mean, a remote professional that's in my team is sitting here probably right now behind this screen because it's part of their job description. But I've always been mindful, Nick, of what is it? And I mean, when we went to the Philippines last year, and I know there's another trip this year, when we went to the Philippines, I can tell the English in that country and the competence level of people means that all the admin side of real estate could be done with some basic guidance and training at the start. But tell me a little bit more about using remote professionals beyond the admin task. And then I'm going to introduce to you our other guest that's on here.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand. I go back to the word optimum. It's important to understand, like, what do you want to achieve as a business, and as business owners, as high performing agents, as leaders in any real estate business, you get approached on a regular basis by the next tech, the next best thing. But actually, if you dig deeper, what you're currently using in your business is probably sufficient enough. It's just not being used correctly. So I take Realtair, for example. There are thousands of agents that are using Realtair across the country, but do they understand the actual capabilities of the platform? And where we've come in to partner with Realtair is we have a solution where we will actually have someone run Realtair and use Realtair to its full capacity, which will in turn allow you to generate more listings, work at a more efficient level, and ultimately help grow your business. So in terms of the actual detail of what they can do, I mean, I'll let Jake talk to it, because obviously he works at one of the most high performing sales businesses in the country. But I always look at a platform like Realtair and obviously Wingman in collaboration with it. Is there's data, there's efficiencies, and then there's growth. And how do we plug into that and allow businesses to flourish and do what they should be doing, agents should be doing, and that's face to face, belly to belly, doing the deals and building the relationships.
Okay, beautiful. Now, Jake, we've been on Zooms together in the past, but it's always been in your capacity role at Realtair when you were working in executive sales role there. But since the start of this year, you have been heading in sales one of the big real estate businesses in Australia, Manor. And we're actually using Manor as a case study. So, Jake, good to see you again.
Always good to be on a webinar with you, Tom, and Nick as well.
Okay, so just bring everyone up to scratch. Jake Mackenzie is head of sales at Manor. They do around 800 sales a year. I think they do around 1,000 rentals, significant business, lots of $1 million agents. In addition to that, Jake is one of the most accomplished real estate auctioneers in New South Wales, works with Ben Mitchell, and he understands auctions, he understands media, and he understands real estate. And Jake, so firstly, does Manor use Realtair?
Yeah, absolutely. We've used it for well before I was there. I've been sort of calling auctions with Manor for the last 3 and a bit years, but even prior to that, the very first thing we got Realtair in for was actually digital documents. With 800 sales a year, we ran out of space to store contracts. So that was the original reason that we put Realtair in place. One of the biggest things that I wanted to change getting into the business is using the price update or the market update inside of Realtair. And of course, with that, what we'll sort of talk through today is it's time. You know, we're in the business of time. We're all busy as agents. The last thing you want to be told is that you've got to do something else in your day. And also on top of that is remaining consistent with any sort of prospecting that we do. So a big part of what I did, and we're still, you know, we're not perfect, but we're doing pretty well at it, is getting the price update or market update into the hands of the agents. They know what it is, but then also letting Wingman take care of that, and our remote professional actually driving that, and driving a lot of the dollar productive tasks that traditionally a lot of agents are a bit scared to hand over to someone that's not sitting next to them in the same office.
So, Jake, did you sell and introduce Manor to Realtair, or did they have it before you were at Realtair?
They had it before, so it was actually Ben that, because he was at Realtair as well, so got Realtair into Manor. They were one of the sort of early customers of Realtair as that product grew and the platform stitched together with Pitch, Sign and Sell. We use it holistically now, all the way across from prospecting documents. All of our auctions are live streamed and digitally logged as well, so we use the whole product. But probably one of the biggest benefits that we've had is the market update, and actually getting all of the tens of thousands of clients that sit inside our database onto a prospecting sequence. So we're starting to minimize a lot of the leakage that comes through, because we know as agents, like you said before, Tom, every agent's focused on the 3% of the market that is in real estate mode, but the 97% that's not, and that's the stats. How frequently are we talking to them? And, I sit in the office every day and I listen to the agents saying, hey, they're making their prospecting calls. There's no appointment to be booked, so I'll call you back in 3 months. But do they do that? And if you're looking at your office and your prospecting sequence, do you have a process to make sure that you will make that call, or at least that client will receive something every month or 2 months or 3 months, such as a price update with Realtair? And on top of that, why do I have to do that as an agent? Why can't someone else do that, such as a Wingman or remote professional, so that pretty much the prospecting and nurturing of the database is all but automated by you not having to do anything apart from set it up and get it happening?
Yeah. And I'm particularly, Jake and Nick, if you actually have a look at this slide here I've just brought on, if we turn around and look at categories of leads, right? And for the purposes of my own thinking, I like to compartmentalize: hot 0 to 60 days, they're coming on the market; medium 60 days to 6 months; cold 6 months and over. Jake and Nick, it's running at the highest level of these two, because I reckon that most real estate agents are reasonable at this. And this involves a lot of conversations on the phone, the hot ones, because they're coming on the market in August. And there's going to be a lot like, hey, listen, we just sold that. I've got this property here. I've got this buyer that had 1.5. They missed out on that one. I reckon as soon as we get yours on, I want to get them through. But medium and cold, with thousands of people on the database, we do need to have a process that's a nurture, stay in touch strategy. And I think pretty much for all of these here, the buyer seller is another category lead. I think you've got to treat the buyer seller differently as well. They're the ones that say, when I buy, I'm going to sell. You've got to give them amazing buyer work. But specifically nurturing the medium and cold leads, I want to ask you, Jake, like at Manor, what would you reckon is a reasonable frequency of sending out to the medium and colds the price update document?
Tom, it's an awesome question. For us, we do it monthly, and people on the call might be thinking, "Wow, that's a lot." But because it's such a low key touch point, it's a text message from the agent's number, so it's not spammy, it's not an email, it's not hounding them on a phone call every couple of weeks. We do it monthly. It really depends on your market. Our market transacts enough that there's plenty of new sales happening every month. I find that if it gets too far out, like some do it 6 monthly, but a lot changes in 6 months. You think about all the reasons people sell. The house gets too big, too small, the bank, or something happens within the family. Those things can happen within a month or 2 months or 3 months. So at a general rule, I would say for most markets, every 2 months would be a pretty good point in time. If your market's a bit more transactional, you can do it monthly. If it's a regional, more of a slower market, maybe 3 months, but probably not longer than that, because you're going to get that leakage that comes through. And most agents, the data says around 900 homes is about that 40 transactions. So it doesn't become overwhelming with the number of these updates that you have to send or get your remote professional to send as well. And that's the sweet spot we've found.
Nick, are they a client? Is Manor's a client of Wingman?
Manor's a client of Wingman, yeah, absolutely. But it's interesting. It's interesting that slide, Tom, about the cold and the medium and the cold leads. Would you agree and say that the consistently top agents that are consistently at the top of the tree have nailed those cold and medium leads?
Yeah, yeah. The reason I say it is that if you're nailing the cold and the medium leads, when they fall into the hot, because let's be clear, every one that is a 0 to 60 days at one point was 60 days and over, right? So what we clearly know is that these two groups of people that are having touch points have trust at hot stage, right? The problem, like, I'll give you an example, Nick. when I first got into real estate, my boss said to me, Tom, that apple tree has got apples on it. Those apples are examples or metaphors of listings. Should you take the apples off the tree now, nurture them, and have them, or should you wait till they fall off the tree and then fight with everyone else to get them? And obviously the answer is you're far better off to get them while you can and nurture them, right? And what I'm getting at is the people that do this bit good here are in an unfair advantage at this stage here. But the problem, Nick, is that real estate is challenging for the amount of work an agent's got to do: list, sell, open home, vendor reports, feedbacks, vendor meeting, prospect, listing presentation there, auctions, goes on. Man, if anything's going to crack through, it's these things here. It's these things because they're not urgent, right? It's not the end of the world. But then you got the same agents complaining, I've got nothing in the pipeline, I've got nothing coming, I haven't got any stock. So I noticed the best agents have got this bit covered as well as what everyone else does.
Which is one of the, sorry, Jake, to jump in, which is one of the reasons why we sort of asked Jake to come on. We wanted to, obviously Realtair is an amazing product and it's working across multiple businesses, but how are we utilizing that to its full capacity? And Realtair, Manor doing 800 plus deals a year. It's chaos. Like when you're doing that kind of volume and the agents are performing to us. I think there's something like 8 or 10 agents within the Manor brand that are writing over $1 million. So there are multiple transactions, a lot going on. Manor's now got a solution that is nurturing those cold and medium leads while still allowing the agents to do their thing with the hot leads. So it's been a great sort of collaboration between Wingman and Manor. And I have no doubt we will see the fruits of that, the labor that we're doing now over the next 3, 6, and 12.
Can I just ask, Jake, does the Wingman people you have, are they doing the price updates on Realtair for you?
Yeah, so they're doing it on behalf of some of the agents. So we ran a bit of a comp, actually. We ran a 3-month comp for the agents and said, look, for the top 3 agents that send the most market updates, we're going to give you a remote professional to send those for a year. So all of that prospecting is looked after for those agents now with that. And what Nick was saying before, those agents they're that busy doing all of the other stuff that comes along with the job. But we know if prospecting is not consistent, we get our lumpy months. We got 1 month, we've got 5 listings, and then we sell them, and then we've been that busy selling them that we have nothing. We've been not prospecting. So we go back and we've got to start again. But just having it, leveling out that wave by having those updates going out every day to that database, it does 2 things. One, when you're calling and you're actually making those calls to those clients, there's now not ever a reason to want to call someone because you're calling them about that. You're calling them to check in that they've got their market report, mentioning a few of the sales. It warms up the conversation. And in terms of your cold, warm, and hot, we all know a good agent can actually accelerate that timeline. So if you are having more and more touch points with these clients, the chance of you accelerating those cold into warm and warm into hot. So it's not just the nurturing; it's actually getting more business quickly because you have the just a better level of conversation with these clients anyway, because you're seen as the area expert. You're layering the prospecting. They're getting these market updates from you every month. We even have people replying to the agent now. So thanks so much, great. So where typically, you call someone, they don't answer, you might call them again, you might call them again. We've had that now. Agents are actually sending these, and they may not be answering the phone, but they're viewing the market update because every time they're viewed, you get a notification, and they're also responding. So it's just being a little bit more savvy in the way that you're communicating with them.
Jake, can I ask, how long does an update take? I'm just thinking some of the questions that people that are on this webinar that currently aren't too familiar with everything that we're talking about. How long does it take? And one question I want to ask you specifically is about what's in those. And the reason I say it is I had one agent say to me, "Oh, Tom, I'm not going to be doing it because it's cost me a listing." And I asked him how did it cost him a listing, and he said to me that he sent it out and that the client that received it ran into him at the shopping center and said to him, well, the agent said to him, "Oh, I've been sending you a report. How are you thinking? Where you're going to come on? Are you going to come on this year or you're thinking next year?" And the guy says, "I am coming on in spring, but I'm not going to give it to you. And the reason I'm not going to give it to you is that you think my house is not worth this price." And what he'd done is he mistakenly put in a comparable that was around 300 grand less. And you know what people are like. Anything to do with your house or your
Yeah.
family, like, mate, like what? You know? So yeah, well, how do you overcome the issue of, not stuffing things up like this client did?
Yeah, good question. I haven't met an owner yet that doesn't think their property's worth more than it is. They're always the same. To answer your
Well,
time
I'll
question,
give you an interesting stat because I didn't know that. What percentage of properties do you, not for auctions, for sale? I want to see what you guys say. What percentage of properties sell lower than the list price as a private treaty?
don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Does anyone want to have a guess in the total market of Australia? What percentage of property? Let me ask you, I'll make it even an easier question, everyone. What percentage of properties, Alex has got it right, first person. 80% of properties, according to RP data, in their study that they had done, sell for lower than, and I understand that because I think every owner wants more than what it is. Obviously, auctions are hard to tame because you can't work out what the owner wanted, like by the day that they list it to the day that they sell it, because often the reserves are actually set on the day of the auction or just prior. Alex, it was a good guess, but
They're always more anyway. Auctions, Tom, you know that they always sell for more than
100%.
expectations.
Yeah, auction. Just buy it.
Um,
It's an auctioneer.
back on your question. Look, a minute and 12 seconds because I challenged one of the agents. How long does it take to send? And he was whinging that it took too long. So I said, get your timer out on your phone and do it. But honestly, even if you're not the best at tech, it 2 minutes at a max because all you're doing is selecting, or you actually shouldn't be doing anything. You should be sending it to your remote professional to do. But all they have to do is select some. Now, I don't say comparable sales. It's a market update. So it's not saying to this person, here's 3 or 4. This is what your place is worth. So for an example, and this all comes in the communication through to the RP is, if the property's worth $1 million, I'd be sending them everything from 800 to 1.2 because the idea of this document is you get back in front of them, it's branded, it's personalized, it's from your number, but it gives them a variety of properties that have been selling, similar in terms of if it's a house, obviously put houses in, or a unit, put units in, but you want them to get curious. Oh, if that sold for 800 and it's a 3-bedder, and that one sold for 1.2 and it's a 5-bedder with a pool, what's my place worth? And then they can reach out if they want to. So that's the way around that is it's a market update. That's why sort of the terminology has changed from price update to market update because it is updating them on the market. And in the blurb on that update, it does say, this is just some market activity. If you want something more specific for your place, click the button below, book appraisal, and we'll obviously give you something more personalized.
Jake, I'm going to put you on the spot because it's been big on my mind in the last 24 hours. And that is that there are buyers that are now going to an auction property and they walk out of the property and they don't listen to the agent. They just put that address into ChatGPT and they say, please give me the 3 closest comparables to this property, and they're forming their own view. I don't know. Jake, Nick, you might want to give us input. Do you think that, like, some of the remote professionals, or even if you're not using a remote professional, you're using onshore staff would actually pick the comparables or the surrounding sales. Because I think that maybe if it's a market report, like I live in Haberfield, and I'd be happy enough for someone to be sending me a report that had surrounding sales, you know, within 5, 10 minutes from home. Could you reckon they could use Chat GPT to work out which ones they should be including?
Yeah, they could. I mean, inside of Realtair, you can just filter. Realtair links in with all the data providers, so you can just go on radius. That's the first thing. So it'll actually pick those up, the closest ones first, and they'll put them in. And it's super simple to do because that's one of the things that agents go, well, I know how to send it. Like, how do I teach a person that's offshore how to do the same thing? But you've got to remember, well, number one, these remote professionals come trained. It's not like they don't know what Realtair is. Within Wingman, they know what the CRM is. They know what Realtair is. They've used it before. Donna, who we've got, she's awesome. She's probably better than me at it, to be honest. She's awesome. She's really good. She knows what it is. She's very thorough, and she can pick those comps. So just like you teach your associates to learn a market, the remote professionals learn the market as well. They're not driving around in the car with you, but price is not protected anymore. We used to be the gatekeepers of price as agents, and now you can go on realestate.com, type in your address and claim it, and it tells people what their property's worth. So although this is called a market update, really the purpose of this is to get back in front of the client with something that's branded, personalized, and automated, and it has a system. So the price is just some information. It's all it really is. The key to this is the consistency in getting something of value back in front of that and getting someone's mind to go from not in real estate mode back into real estate mode. And that's the real secret behind it.
Yeah, and I think, Jake, we're not going to, spend too much time talking about the tech functionality of how they all work, but we also know that once you get it out there and we get them back into real estate mode, we also know when they get into real estate mode, because the tech allows you to get notified, hey, it's top of mind. They're looking at it, right?
It's going back to your slide about cold, medium, hot time. Like the whole thing for as long as I've been listening to you and a lot of the other sort of top coaches across the country, it's all about how do you get on the shopping list when they are actually ready to make that decision, and if you can find, we've got a solution here. This is a huge step in the right direction to do that. Frequency build trusts. We've all heard that. Yes, they can go on Chat GPT and get the 3 closest sales, but can they get a beautiful document that's branded by them in their office with beautifully laid out that's sent to them? So it's how do you get on the shopping list and find really efficient ways to lean on tech and offshoring to do that, so you can spend more time nurturing buyers, speaking to vendors.
Can I just talk, Nick, these remote professionals that send them out, Jake indicated to me that he's doing a lot by text message. Do they send them out off a phone there, or they use off the CRM system? What are the remote professionals? Are you mainly texting, Jake, or emailing those market updates?
We use text, but through Realtair, it sends. So the remote professional clicks SMS and it sends through Realtair from the agent's number. So there's no issues with them having to have their own phone or text or anything like that.
Needed, you reckon, to get a remote professional to understand how to actually do a market update and then to send the market update? Is it?
We did none because Wingman did it.
Realtair training is part of our academy. So we actually train them on Realtair during the academy. And then the second part to that is, as part of our integration and onboarding process, there is a discovery session that's done with the Australian business. We do a download of the tech stack that business uses. And then we go into specialized training as to the specifics of that tech. So, for example, with Jake and Manor, they told us their tech stack. Obviously, Realtair is a part of that. They were very keen to ensure that the digital price updates facet of Realtair was utilized to its optimum. So we made sure that our integration and onboarding team really nailed that before the remote professionals started within Manor. So the whole thought process behind that is they start day one, they know what they're doing for the Australian business, they know the task, they know the process, and there's efficiencies being built immediately day one.
And
You
that's
reckon? Go on, Jake.
I was going to say that's the reason. Apart from Nick's, a good guy, it's the reason that we went with Wingman, because there's so many remote professional businesses out there. But it's we went and said, hey, this is what we want this person to do. It was the market updates. It was some data admin as well, really role specific. And then Wingman comes back and says, hey, here are the candidates that are actually already awesome at that. They've got previous experience. They've done it. We put them through the academy. So it really is a plug and play. In that person, we onboarded them as a normal staff member, as if they were with inside of the business in Manor, and from day one they were generating. And there's so many things. We've just spoken about the digital price update today, but there's the proposals. We had agents that literally can be walking out of a market appraisal, whether it's through WhatsApp, or you call them and say, hey, I've just left number 2 Smith Street. Can you generate an agency agreement for me? I need the price between this and that. It's an auction on the 7th of August or whatever it might be, and send that through. So it's essentially having an assistant as well, that they don't necessarily need to be there, and you've got all the cost benefits and efficiencies that go with that as well.
Jake, do some of your local team do price updates?
Yes, yeah. So some of the agents still do them themselves. It's not all offshore, but we've got a combination of both.
Okay. Some of the benefits, productivity gains you've seen in this process, and does it improve? Like, what do you reckon? I mean, you're smart enough and work long enough to know whether you're getting. Is there a quality advantage at the listing presentation if someone's been getting one along the way? Do you get a better listing presentation?
Yeah, look, definitely. I think it's not the secret sauce. There's no secret sauce to real estate. It's consistency and hard work, but it does help, warming up that data. If they've gotten something off you every month for the last year, you've got 12 touch points ahead of the agent that hasn't done that. And to answer your question about productivity, if you're not doing it at the moment, like, are you going to change as an agent and start doing them tomorrow? Or are you better off getting someone else to do them for you, so that at least they're getting done? Because let's face it, you're not going to get less busy. You're only going to get busier with more listings and as your career progresses. So if you're not doing it at the moment, and we had a lot of agents that weren't doing it, but now it's getting done. So it's literally gone from a 0 to a 100 in getting done.
So I've got to say, Jake, in my business, persuasion, and that's what I call it, persuasion is critical. So I'll give you an example. Someone calls, hey, we're going to hold a conference in such and such. We want to see, are you available? What do you talk about? What's your fee? The first question I ask, are we connected on social media? Are you on my database? Are we? If the answer is no, I have no persuasion there. And it's I've got to actually go off and sell hard because they're calling other people. But if the answer is, oh yeah, oh mate, I get your stuff, you sent me out this and this and that, I think there's already trust in the relationship. I don't need to sell. We can move straight into a conversation. What do you want? This is what's going to cost. So I see both the market update as being persuasion, they're warming it up. I actually see Realtair's pitch document as the digital intro as being a significant nurturer and a warmer upper. And that to me is real persuasion, right? It's like you're seeing them the next day and you're actually just really priming that client up to have all the information. So when you're there, that you can actually do business. Jake, when you said to me monthly, I thought, man, that's a lot. But if you're efficient and it's taking 1.5 minutes, and it can be done, I can see the value because there's the concept called the rule of seven. And it essentially says vendors need 7 touch points before it really, they think, that's Jake from Manor. He's really onto things, right? Because they're getting things left, right, and center. So I think if you were doing once a year, right, it will take you 7 years to get their attention based on the rule of seven. So I sort of get the concept of, having at least every 3 months, right? Because
Yep.
you're otherwise you might miss that window of that selling opportunity, right? And probably one other thing I want to ask you is how do you do you select how do you delegate between an RP doing the price updates and your local team, or is it the agent themselves? Some agents say, I'm just doing it, and then there's other agents or the company has said the remote professionals are doing it.
Yeah. So some agents have relationships themselves with Wingman RPs, and then the company has some as well. So it just depends how they want to do it. It's often, the agents that are starting or earlier in their career, they got the time, they're hungry, they're doing more prospecting, they're doing it themselves. The more established agents that are just face to face with clients doing listing presentations and market appraisals and negotiation, that's when they're getting them sent by someone else, just from
Right.
a time perspective.
Just on that point regarding Realtair and Wingman, digital price updates and the like, I think it's important to understand that Realtair and tech and offshoring should be used as enablers in your business. So utilize the tools to their full capacity, but I don't think it takes away from the fact that the agents need to be on the phones, doing the face-to-face and actually building the relationships. These collaborations, this tech and offshoring is all designed to actually give you back more time.
That's what it is. Technology is there to complement you, and the complementing is to give you time. And that time can be spent, look, you might choose to go home and watch TikTok. You might choose to go to the gym, or you might choose to make more sales. The bottom line is it's there for you to choose. The commodity that you'll be given is time. And we clearly know that time is money. I've enjoyed this, and I've got to let you know that in the chat box, we have got a URL, I think, Susan.
Yeah, that's what they're called.
Here it is, realtair.com.au/Tom Panos. Welcome, Nicole. You're only going to get 1 minute of this because it is 4:44 p.m. in Sydney. We aim to finish at 4:45. Thank you, Ben, for responding. I want to repeat, this is your sign to go to realtair.com/au/Tom Panos. No one from Realtair is actually on this webinar, right? We're all talking about Realtair, but they're not on here. You've had Jake Mackenzie, who has been previously at Realtair, now is head of sales at Manor, and Nick Georges, one of the heads of Wingman. Today we've been talking about remote professionals, but specifically on how remote professionals can be using Realtair to be nurturing your database, particularly your medium and cold leads. We talked about the benefits of that. We talked about the value of that. We talked about the mechanics of how long it would take that. And if you feel at the end of this webinar that you want to take the next step, the URL we've given to you. And at the same time, it'd be crazy for us not to mention, if you want to join Wingman as a client and get access to a remote professional that can help you do a lot of things in real estate, including the nurturing of the data, that I actually think to myself, Nick, that there are so many of these remote professionals now that are doing this sort of stuff, which I'm just going to share my screen here. They're doing this sort of stuff at the moment. So many of them are actually getting a combination of red and blue here. They're coordinating diaries, they're executing marketing plans, they're doing heaps of admin, right? they're turning around. And by the way, everyone, may I suggest that you pull out your mobile phone if you're trying to work out roles, descriptions. This is your time for you to take a photo of this, because divisions of labor and making sure you've got the right people doing the right jobs is what makes a business extraordinary. And we've had a great 45-minute. Jake, good to see you.
Thank you, Tom. Always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure as well. Say hello to Ben, and say hello to the great team at Manor. Nick George will be seeing you on you or Jonathan Bell, I think tomorrow, on an event. How do people get Wingman?
Wingmangroup.com.au. I think the link is in the in the chat bot, or you can reach out to me directly on socials, LinkedIn. I'm sure you'll find me somewhere.
He's everywhere.
Well, I've got to hand it to you, Nick. You've been highly intelligent, where you've gone out there and you've been educating, not selling. And that's what thought leadership is. Thought leadership is getting people's attention by adding value and not asking for something, but giving them something, and then getting their attention. So when they need you, they come to you. And I think a lot of Wingman success has come because that's the approach that you've had alongside your fellow leaders, Rostrom and Jonathan Bell. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our time.
Thanks, team.
Thank you.